All right, welcome back to another episode of the Investing with TJ show. And today we're going to be talking about quite a few things on the asset front. We're going to start out with silver, going to talk about some macro things, and then we're going to talk about one of our major competitors and one of the shills behind it. Now, it's going to get a little spicy there, but just stay tuned. Now, first, we're going to talk about Jeffrey Christian and his prediction on $26 silver. So let's see what he has to say.
We're watching it. We think it's going to test at $26 and it could make a run to $28. We don't necessarily see a lot of potential for prices over $28 in the next 10 trading days, nor in the next couple months. But we do think that the bias is toward higher prices for gold and silver.
All right, so you heard what Jeffrey had to say. Now, some of you guys, this is on Wall Street Silver's Twitter page, by the way. Now, some of you guys are pretty funny. Like, if you know who Jeffrey Christian is, then this meme probably will make you laugh just a little bit there. You guys are too funny. Now, when it comes to $26 silver within the next 10 trading days, or whether it falls into a December play, I pretty much have my eye on that same in that same range. Now, here's my silver forecasting model, and I did some updates yesterday actually after I made my video. And basically where we have things is $26.13 in the central limit. So this is the predicted value in December. And then, of course, we have an upper range and we have a lower range here. The lower range actually tightened up a little bit. It was closer to about around $20-ish yesterday. Now it's up to about 22. One of the things that I did was just essentially add more data. And, as you guys know, the more data you add, the more accurate you get. So I actually literally yesterday was just like plugging in numbers, more and more numbers than I had before to help train my model to get it to be tighter. So this is pretty much what we have. Now, many of you guys probably aren't too surprised by seeing $26 silver. Some of you may be a little bit disappointed that things are kind of, I guess you could say maybe a tiny bit, weaker right now. But again, this is just where we are in the cycle, the rallying, or I should say the near-term rallying that we've been seeing. We're just taking a little bit of a breather. We're going to be back on track. If there's anything that we should be worried about, it's the potential rise in more of those cases that we can't use the word of, but we've been seeing them rise in the last few days. Now, as far as the long-term trajectory is concerned, this is something that I've been talking about for a while now, and it's pretty much what do we do when it comes to our day-to-day lives? Yes, we do stack silver. Yes, we do stack gold, but is there anything else that we can do to make things a little bit easier on ourselves, as we move through life? And I want to point you to this article here. They ditched the U.S. for the beach life. We now save over $2,200 a month. Take a look at how they earn and spend money. Now, this is something that I understand is not going to be for everybody. Some people would prefer to live in the U.S., be around family. This is something that I actually struggle with because I want to be around family and most of my family's here. But if you were to think about, price levels just increasing and us just having to deal with that, and just our pay not really keeping up with that, we're going to have to figure out ways to work around that. And if it gets to a point where it just becomes unmanageable, we may have to look for, greener pastures. And this is what this family did here. It looks like they moved from Chicago and now live in Antigua, Barbuda, and they spend about $4,762 a month. And to be honest, that's still a kind of a lot, but I mean, they're saving $2,000. So what were they spending in Chicago? I mean, man. But let's see what this article has to say. In 2016, my family and I packed our bags and moved from Chicago to Mazatlan, Mexico. After my mother passed away unexpectedly, my husband and I realized that life is too short to put off building the life we wanted. We had about $20,000 in our savings, which was more than enough to get by due to the lower cost of living in Mazatlan. I got to learn how to pronounce that because I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing it correctly. And then after 2 beautiful years in Mexico, my husband, Vernon, landed an incredible opportunity to teach at a medical university in Antigua, an island in the Eastern Caribbean Sea that's famous for its beautiful weather and 365 beaches. Wow, that sounds amazing. Once again, we packed up our things and booked a one-way flight, spending and saving smarter. The initial months were difficult, especially because Vernon's first few paychecks were prorated. I still had a very limited income, less than $1,000 a month. Sorry, that just dropped down there. There we go. From my freelance gig as a copywriter. A lot of people actually do this. So they'll find gigs online using Fiverr or Upwork, and they're able to make American paychecks while living elsewhere. And they live off the difference. So let's continue. We also incurred a lot of moving expenses, including the plane tickets, first month's rent, $25.50, a security deposit, $25.50, and our rental car, $400 a month. Plus, our cost of living, though still cheaper than in the U.S., jumped significantly. Now, I will say a rental car being $400 a month, that's definitely cheaper than what I've used to. I've spent $400 on a rental car and you guys know I'm from Baltimore. I was in Baltimore and I spent probably about $400 or a little bit over $400 in like 4 or 5 days. So yeah, still a lot better. Let's go down here. But we stuck it out and we love Antigua, and I'm glad we did. We're now in a completely different place financially as my business has grown and we found ways to spend less. We just plan our meals and eat at home often. Before making a purchase, big or small, we always ask, is this a need or a want? Doesn't it sound like old school, like ways of kind of, moving up around our budgets? And I don't know. I just love that mentality of just like not having to think about just being a consumer all the time. Let's continue. After saving up a good amount of money and with the help of my in-laws' interest-free loan, oh, that's really nice, we purchased a used car for about $10,000, which we now fully paid off. Nice. So let's see how they earn their income. I run my own copywriting business, she said that before, and do some mindset and business coaching on the side. This is very much a very modern business here, the whole mindset and copywriting thing. But if you are familiar with that, then don't worry about it. But it's just a very like millennial thing, I feel like. I bring in an income of about $5,000 per month. My husband makes about $5,700 per month from his job at the university. Man, that is a lot. That's impressive. Our combined monthly income allows us to pay our bills, enjoy the island lifestyle, and save for the future. Since last year, we've been putting $500 per month into our joint retirement savings account. Okay, now these guys can definitely put way more into their retirement. In my view, if you're making that amount of money, now of course they might have extra expenses because they have kids, but if they have a lot more left over, having moved to a cheaper cost of living, and hey, we're gonna get to the expenses, so maybe I'll put my foot in my mouth. But let's continue here. They paid off $24,000 in credit card debt, and we still make regular payments to our $80,000 of student loan. Okay, so this is probably another reason why they don't put away as much money as they could, because they have a large student loan. Again, another millennial issue. A breakdown of our main expenses. So let's take a look down here, and they actually have a graph. So let's see what they have here. Rent and utilities is $25.17, which actually seems kind of high for, Antigua, but that's just my assumption of Antigua. I don't really know much about it. Food is $969. They have multiple kids, so I can see that. Tuition $622. Okay. Honestly, this looks like it could be a place in America, honestly. I mean, I I don't know if, moving there was maybe compared with Chicago it was, but I don't know. In my view, I don't know if this was, a major upgrade. I would have tried to look for a cheaper place, but that's just me. Um, but also, I mean, considering that they have $80,000 in student loan debt, uh, I don't know. Just not my, just not what I would do. But they do have multiple kids, so they do have higher expenses in that regard. So the monthly average that they pay is $4,762. Daily average is $159. So all that aside, it seems like they do save more. Like they said, they save about $2,000 more than they did when they were living in Chicago. So I think for more and more people moving forward, they're going to have to make this decision of, hey, am I going to at least stay in my hometown where things are expensive, or am I going to move? And I think we're going to see a lot more of this economic migration as we move ahead in the future, as we have been seeing in 2020 with people leaving the Bay Area, moving to Texas, for example. And I know some of you Texans out there might not be too happy about that. There are some people who are just like, hey, we're going to leave the U.S. altogether. So there's that. Now, some people are hitching their bets on cryptocurrency. Now, if we take a look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin has been struggling over the last few days. I don't have the moving averages up here, but it looks a lot weaker right now than gold and silver. So currently, we're at 59,103. We actually got pretty low. We actually got down to about 55 at a certain point a few days ago. Now, will we continue down that path? Who knows? But I will say, I am not a fan of this guy right here, who basically shills gold. I mean, not shills gold, shills Bitcoin left, right, and center every day, all day. And the thing about this is, if you look at my channel, right, I talk about gold and silver, and I talk about the macro economy. But in instances, I will say things like, hey, gold and silver is looking a little bit weaker right now. I don't give investment advice. I don't say, hey, you should buy silver. Hey, you should buy gold. Or, hey, you should sell silver. Hey, you should sell gold. I don't say things like that. I just say, hey, this is where we're at right now. You make your own decision. But this guy right here, and I'm not a big fan of this, he almost talks about Bitcoin as if it's like some deity, it's pretty insane. The things he says, like the path of least resistance is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a swarm of cyber hornets serving the goddess of wisdom, feeding on the fire of truth, exponentially growing ever smarter, faster, and stronger behind the wall of encrypted energy. It's just, I don't know, it's just cult-like words. Now, this guy owns a company called MicroStrategy, and a lot of people last year were basically hailing this guy because he was one of the first businesses to heavily invest in Bitcoin and place it on its balance sheet. Now, I'm actually going to show you their cash flow statement and show you why it's actually a little bit worrying, because this is I'm going to show you their 10Q shortly, and why I also think that he's also kind of full of crap. Just here's some other things that he says, but I'll let you go through that yourself. But here's a tweet that I made a few days ago, and again, follow me on at Investing with TJ on Twitter to follow my thoughts on these kinds of things. Now, here's what I said. Michael Saylor'S, the Bitcoin evangelist, financial report for MicroStrategies is astonishing. Most cash inflows should come from operations. For MicroStrategies, it comes from financing, specifically issuing debt. Now, that's already bad in and of itself. Let's continue. And what do they spend that cash inflow from debt issuance on? Bitcoin. Now, that's even worse, because you have probably heard people say, and if you invest in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrency, you've probably heard a lot of people say, do not use margin to buy Bitcoin. Do not take on debt and buy Bitcoin with it. You are essentially shooting yourself in the foot. Now, the thing about MicroStrategy is that some people have noted that they are essentially one of the largest purchasers of Bitcoin at this moment. Like one of them, they're one of the head honchos, one of the whales, and they could move the price of Bitcoin if they wanted. Now, if you take a look here, this is their cash flow statement. I want to draw your attention to this line right here. This is the net cash provided by operating activities in the 3 months ending in September. So the 3 quarters essentially of 2021, and this is the end of the 3 quarters in 2020. As you can see, in 2020, it wasn't really that much when you compare it to the net cash used in investing, which net cash or investing should be somewhat negative. You're investing in your company. This was 316, 204, which is way more than what they're brought in through operations, which is 28,297. And then the last section that you want to pay attention to is the financing activities. Now, financing, it was negative 118. So this is just cash-wise not great. But if you take a look at 2021, their net operating activities was 9586. Okay, they started to increase some things there. Now, take a look at their financing. Way different than what it was in 2020. They've increased significantly. And most of this comes from issuing proceeds from convertible senior notes, issuing debt, essentially. And they use a lot of that money that they're issuing on buying purchases in digital assets. Whenever you see these parentheses here, that means negative. That means a cash outflow. So they've bought a lot of cryptocurrency with it, mostly Bitcoin with this. Now, the interesting thing is that in their notes section that MicroStrategy provides, it might be kind of hard to see this, so let me see if I can make it bigger. In their notes section, they actually talk about their strategy a bit. And it says, as part of our overall business strategy, we expect to purchase additional Bitcoin in future periods, though we may also sell in future periods as needed to generate cash assets for treasury management purposes. Meaning, and if you don't know what treasury management is, essentially it's this. A sound, unified approach to treasury management doesn't just keep a business from running out of money or making a bad investment. It also maximizes profits and ensures that at all times a company has the cash it needs to continue operating effectively. So essentially what this guy is doing is saying that if we need to, if we are running out of cash, or if we realize we've made a bad investment, or if we need more cash to continue operating effectively, we will sell Bitcoin. Meaning that just like most other people who are looking at other assets, they will eventually liquidate in order to increase their treasury management. It even says it in their own, this is on microstrategy.com. I didn't write this myself. Just take a look here, risk related to our Bitcoin strategy and holdings. So this is in their own words. This guy, in my view, again, is full of crap. And eventually he will sell, even though he says things like never sell the family. Yeah, right here. You do not sell the family Bitcoin. Like I just don't like people like this. It's just it makes the financial world, look as slimy as, unfortunately, it is in some instances. You got people like this who, prey on people. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Yeah, there's there's MicroStrategy for you. There's my silver outlook, and there is some ideas you can take away as far as what you can do relative to rising price levels in the US or wherever you live.